جميل المساعي وامنح الناس حبك بيض الله قلبك بيض الله قلبك كن سموحا لخصمك ألقى خصمك أحبك بيض الله قلبك بيض الله قلبك واحتفل بالمودة إنما
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum. Welcome to the Moulana Sulaimaan Ravat show here on ITV. We're coming to you from a very, very chilly Joburg. The weather's been very cold this week, and inshallah, hopefully now it will start warming up again. But it's only July, so I think we still have another maybe 6 weeks of cold weather. Inshallah, this evening we've got a very interesting show coming up. We've been speaking politics the last few weeks. The last week we saw the Mandela centenary, and it's been interesting to see the legacy of Mandela finally being debated. But that's a show for another time. Tonight we're going to be speaking a very important topic, and I'm delighted to be joined by Moulana Sulaimaan Ravat to speak about maintaining family ties. Moulana, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to your show.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Muhammad, it's good to be in your company once again.
Moulana, we spoke politics for the last few weeks. I think we needed to do something a bit different, and I think the best person to speak about this would be you. You spoke about this a few weeks ago, and I think a lot of people enjoyed that talk of yours, so we can elaborate a bit more on that talk, on the importance of family ties.
Yeah, actually I prepared this particular talk for my Laylatul Bara'ah, 15 Shaban lecture that I delivered at Masjid al-Noor in Roshni. And we know that when it comes to the 15th night of Shaban, as per the hadith, there are those group of people who are, so to speak, deprived. And one of the categories of people are those people who don't maintain family ties. And that was the reason why I spoke about that particular topic. And then, I didn't speak about it again because Ramadan came in between. But a lot of people felt that it was something that needed to be spoken about in a way that it reaches a broader audience. And that's why we take up the discussion this evening. When it comes to something like family ties, sometimes people will say, okay, this is a standard topic. We know it's important, we have to do it. But I think what we want to unpack today is a little bit more than that. It's a little bit about, and I said this also when I started the talk in Roshni. I said, I'm not talking to those people who are blatantly, intentionally breaking family ties. I mean, that goes without saying. We're not talking to those people. They know, or they ought to know that they are wrong, or society knows that they are wrong. We are talking here tonight to those people who think they're maintaining family ties, and perhaps they are to a certain extent, but we want to make ourselves and make the audience tonight realize how much we are falling short, how much more we can and we should do. So we're not talking to those on the extreme. We're not talking to those who have, excommunicated people and just broken relations and gone their own way in life and violating this particular principle left, right and center. We're talking about those people who would consider themselves not too bad. Okay, I'm a good family person. How good are you really? That's what we want to unpack tonight, inshallah.
When I was preparing for it, I listened to the talk, but I came across a nice quote. It says, you don't choose your family. They are a gift given to you by the Almighty and you to them. I think it's very important to take into consideration that your family are a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But based on the Quran and Hadith, the importance of maintaining family ties.
Well, as Muslims, everything goes back to the Quran and Hadith. Everything goes back to the original sources. And even if we may have heard these ayat before, or we may have heard these hadith before, we have to remind ourselves. There's a barakah in making mention of these verses of the Quran or statements of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and these words are such that it puts things into context very quickly. So we know that every time when a marriage takes place, we read the verse وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي تَسَاءَلُونَ بِهِ وَالْأَرْحَامِ. Allah talks about the maintaining of family ties in that particular verse. There are multitudes of hadith. I'm just going to pick a few. There's one hadith in Bukhari and Muslim where Abu Ayyub Ansari radiallahu anh says that a man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, and may Allah bless the Sahaba, they asked such succinct questions, such direct, pointed questions that resulted in such answers that are so beneficial for us. So he said, Ya Rasulullah, tell me something that I can do that will gain me entry into Jannah and save me from Jahannam. Long and short of it, tell me what I can do. Just give me that recipe that if I follow it, right, I'm going to go to Jannah and I'm going to be safeguarded from hellfire. And look at the response of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so beautiful. In categories, the Nabi of Allah said, تَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُ بِهِ شَيْئًا. You first start with belief. Worship Allah and do not associate any partners with Allah. So that's your belief. وَتُقِيمُ الصَّلَاةَ وَتُؤْتِيَ الزَّكَاةَ. Perform your salah and give your zakah. So that's got to do with ibadah and worship. Aqeedah, ibadah. And then you have to exist in this world with other humans. وَتَصِلُ الرَّحِمِ. Maintain family ties. 3 things, right? Your belief must be right, your worship must be right, and your interaction with others, starting with your family, must be right. So in those 3 sentences, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam put everything in perspective. We are Muslims, and we take pride in that. But what is the hallmark of a believer? مَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيُكْرِمْ ضَيْفَهُ. The Nabi of Allah said, if you truly believe in Allah in the last day, honor your guest. وَمَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيَصِلْ رَحِمَهُ. If you truly believe in Allah in the last day, maintain family ties. وَمَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيَقُلْ خَيْرًا أَوْ لِيَصْمُتْ. And if you truly believe in Allah in the last day, then speak good, otherwise shut up. Keep quiet. If you don't have anything good to say, then rather keep quiet. And there are multitudes of hadith which even talks about the benefits of maintaining family ties, apart from the reward, but the benefits. There's one hadith that says, if you want blessings in your sustenance, and if you want blessings in your age, if you want to live long, or you want to live a prosperous life, and you want a lot of blessing in your sustenance, then maintain family ties. Allah has put such effect in family ties. How it plays out, that is known to Allah. But Allah has put such effect in family ties that if you maintain family ties, Allah will put barakah in your sustenance, and Allah will put barakah in your life. And then the Prophet ﷺ explained to us, what does it mean to maintain family ties? Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam, kemcho, haruche. No.
Maybe a WhatsApp message?
Yeah, nowadays it's about WhatsApp message. Ramadan Mubarak, Eid Mubarak, Jummah Mubarak. So, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, no, maintaining family ties with the person who's maintaining family ties with you, that's standard, that's average. True maintaining of family ties is to build ties with those who are breaking ties. Now we can say that you are a genuine family person. And I think this is what I said earlier on. Those who are talking to you and you talk to them, that's average, that's standard. I mean, you can't live in life where you only talk to yourself, right? So, you to be good to those who are good to you, to smile with those who smile with you, to joke with those who joke with you, there's nothing extraordinary about that. But what's extraordinary, what's special, if you really are a family person, is when you try your utmost to build ties with those who are breaking ties. And you see, as much as there are benefit and virtues, we have to also understand that this is a serious matter. The scholars have written, family ties or maintaining of family ties is not something which is discretionary. It's not like we would say nafil. It's not something in which you have a choice. It's obligatory. And if you don't do it, there are consequences for you. You will be answerable in the court of Allah. There's a hadith of Bukhari and Muslim that Allah has given shape to family ties, and it circles the throne of Allah, and it makes this dua: Man wasalani wasalahu Allah. Whoever joins me, may Allah join him. وَمَنْ قَطَعَنِي قَطَعَهُ اللَّهُ. And whoever severs me, may Allah sever him. And this one hadith that I will mention before we conclude this part of what does the Quran and hadith tell us about family ties. Every Muslim, irrespective of our ideology, irrespective of our race, our culture, our background, our level of spirituality or piety, each one of us, we have this aspiration that we want Jannah. And look at this warning, what a dire, what a loud warning sounded by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he said, لا يدخل الجنة قاطع. The person who does not maintain family ties, the person who breaks family ties, the person who severs family ties, he will not enter Jannah. And tonight, my plea to the viewers is, let's not judge others. Let's not listen to these words and say, that person, I hope he's listening. No. Let's judge ourselves. Even if we're not breaking family ties, how can I do more? If we're falling short somewhere, how can I improve? So the purpose behind this discussion is that something as fundamental as this, family ties, we take it as a very standard, average, basic topic. We say, okay, nothing fancy, nothing contemporary, everything has to be contemporary. But today, this morning on the radio, I was saying, Mohammed, the Jamiat had released their weekly newsletter, and the topic was on loneliness. And the irony of the world today is that it has become so much easier for us to access one another. Right? Telephonically, you can speak to somebody, video call, WhatsApp call, anywhere in the world. I mean, now a person goes to the moon also and it can be in constant contact with you. Right? To reach people is much easier now. In those days, if someone lived in Pretoria and another person lived in Indonesia, perhaps a 2 days journey to get across. Now it's like less than an hour and you're there. So travel and communication has made it become so easy. So it's really difficult to fathom that why is it that people are lonely in today's time and age. But life has become so fast-paced, so individualistic. People have become so selfish that people are living lonely lives. They're stuck alone in traffic, just them and the car and the radio. People are lonely in their complexes, in their security complexes. People are lonely in old age homes. So this kind of a topic, which we think, okay, is a standard topic, family ties, all right, we know it's important, all right. But, it's all the more important in today's time and age.
Speaking about loneliness, something came to my mind. I was reading, I think on Twitter or somewhere, that people before had very little material wealth, but their homes were full at all times. It could be 20 or 30 people coming home. The meals were prepared. Nowadays, you need to phone people if you want to go and visit. Okay, it's etiquette in that, but before you could walk into a person's house, especially growing up in your so-called, in the areas before, it was so much easier interacting with your neighbors, with your friends, with your family. Nowadays, you have to basically make an appointment to go and visit people.
I was just saying yesterday, I was sitting in a meeting of one of the organizations, and I was saying that today, Muslims have more money. In South Africa, Muslims have more money than they had 30 years ago. But Muslims on average are donating less than they were donating before. Why? One reason is because previously traders were in the majority in the Muslim community, and traders spent a greater proportion of their wealth in charity. Now, I'm not knocking the professionals, but today you have more professionals than you have traders, because the sons and grandsons and the granddaughters all went and became professionals. So Baji was running a corner shop, but all his children went and became teachers, lawyers, doctors and accountants, and the same for their children. And professionals have much more money than the traders, right? But they don't spend proportionately the same amount of money in charity. Because why? The husband's driving a million rand car, the wife is driving a million rand car, the daughter's got a $500,000 rand car. Before, Baji used to go for overseas holidays once in 10 years. Now, 3 times a year you need to go for holiday. Half of South Africa's Muslims were in Turkey during the June, July holidays. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just making the point that what happened is that proportionately we're not spending the amount of money. But coming to your point, and the second reason why organizations are struggling these days is because in those days, if Baji had a shop on the corner in a particular country town, the local committee there knew where to find him. The people coming from lands knew where to find him. The people coming from Rodiput knew where to find him. Even if he didn't want to give, he was so accessible, they pitched up in his shop. And the hospitality of those days was that nobody can come to your shop and go away empty-handed. Today, you can't find a professional. Even the Jamaat brothers, they say that security complexes, you ring, you need a barcode, you need a password, you need to put a password at every boom gate. You can walk into Baji's shop in the country town, and if Baji is busy, he'll tell you, I'll be with you in 10 minutes. In the meanwhile, the tea is put up and the samosas are fried. Nowadays, you go to a corporate guy and without an appointment, and the security guard will show you the door. You won't even reach his secretary. So you are right, that even though we are supposed to be more accessible to each other nowadays, we've become less accessible and we've become lonely.
Times have really changed. Moulana, we have to take a short break now. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the show where we're discussing the importance of maintaining family ties. I'm with Moulana, still in the studio. Moulana, before the break, we spoke about family ties in regards to the Quran and the Hadith. What is the importance of family ties?
This is a good question, because sometimes people may feel that, why is it so emphasized? Why, what's the reason behind it? And I think logically, when you start to think about it, you'll understand why Allah has stressed and why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has emphasized the maintaining of family ties so much, and why there's so great, so much of reward and so much of warning with regards to it. And you see, and at the same time, for the same reason, marriage is so emphasized in Islam. It's not only about having a halal avenue through which you fulfill your desires, because we as humans, we are interactive beings by nature. You cannot live in isolation, right? And today we all talk about unity, but how does unity come about? If you have, what they say, there's 2 billion Muslims, moving towards 3 billion Muslims. If you have 2 billion individuals in the world, there's just 2 billion individuals. But once there's some sort of cohesion, once there's some sort of joint, right, it becomes a different ball game altogether. And as a human, you cannot exist individually. For financial reasons, for emotional reasons, for psychological reasons, and even for spiritual reasons. Because an idle mind is a devil's workshop. If you live all on your own, you're vulnerable, right? If you're all on your own, even if you've got money, you don't need somebody else's money. But if there wasn't a family structure, imagine how different life would be. How would children grow up? See, when children grow up without the structure of a family unit, it affects them and it affects generations to come. And similarly, even when you're in your middle age or when you're older, you need your family again. Even when you're in the prime of your life, you need that retreat, you need that support, you need that those people on whom you can lean. So Allah, being our maker, understood all of this, and that's why Allah emphasized family ties. Because how will you ever be united as a ummah if you cannot be united as one family unit? If you cannot be united as one family who share the same surname? If you cannot be united as one community? one locality, one congregation. So that's why marriage is so emphasized, because it's not the coming together of only two individuals. When marriage takes place, two families come together. Bonds are strengthened. You remain humane. It gives you some purpose in life. Otherwise, what would life be about? Earning money. For who? What satisfaction would they be? I mean, as a parent, you and I would know, right, the bulk of what we earn, we spend on our children, not on ourselves, right? If we were living as bachelors and we had the same salary at the end of the month, we would have been driving fancier cars, we would have been going for more holidays, we would have been eating out more often, but life would have been much more shallow. There would be no meaning to life. And this is the logical reason which Allah, the creator of logic, had understood. That's why Allah puts so much of emphasis on family ties. And you see today, in this materialistic, fast-paced, rat race kind of society, where it's man eats man, everyone for himself. Maybe not so much in South Africa yet, but if you go to Europe and you go to the Western world, life has become very different for people, you know. And they don't have wives, or they don't have husbands. They have sexual partners, so a different one every now and then, right? And so they don't have children. They don't have a family structure. They're far away from their parents. They speak to their parents 2-3 times a year. They meet maybe on Christmas. That kind of thing. So there's no family structure, and life has its ups and downs. And when it's those ups and downs, where's your support? You have to take support, but you also have to give support. And Allah has designed the structure. The cornerstone of a thriving society is a thriving family. And the cornerstone of a thriving family is a thriving marriage. That's why Islam puts so much of emphasis on marriage, so much of emphasis on family ties. And you cannot sustain that family relation. That family will not thrive if you don't maintain family ties. If you don't try and be better than the next person, if you don't try and be more tolerant, more forgiving, more accommodating, more understanding, that's why all of these teachings of Islam comes in, because that family unit is so important when it comes to the functioning of the human.
As South African Muslims, I think we're very lucky. In fact, last year in an interview I did with Ronnie Casserels, and he told me something, and it sticks with me till today. He says we Muslims should be very fortunate that we still have family units, because I think he lives in Greenside, and he notices the families that go to mosque. He says, I still see people walking to mosque. I see fathers and grandfathers and their grandchildren going to mosque together. And he said, we don't get that in many other communities in South Africa. So, alhamdulillah, we should make shukr for that. But I think also, as you mentioned, that's also moving away as the generations move on now. Because our children and maybe our grandchildren, if they do not know their family, how are they going to maintain those bonds going forward? Because our grandparents made sure that we maintained bonds with our cousins and our second cousins and maybe even third cousins. But our kids, are we doing enough to encourage them to maintain the bonds?
That's a very good point. And I think if we take the discussion further and we look at the different components now of a family, you've got the parents, you've got the spouse, you've got the children, you've got the siblings, right? Now you started about the children. There's actually a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that teach your children their lineage, so that they can maintain family ties. How are you going to maintain family ties if you don't know who's your family? And you and I both know, and I suppose both of us and many would understand this, and would identify with it. How many times don't you go to a function and someone says, I'm related to you, and then you become red-faced because we don't know, right? And that's why it's important. I love when people have these family reunions. Some people say, oh, it's a waste of money, whatever. I say, look, unfortunately life has become such that we're also stuck in our own routines. Nowadays, it's difficult because the family is already 4th or 5th generation. So 30 years ago, if one of the cousins got married, everybody was invited because the family was small. Yeah. Now, financially, it's difficult, right? Because it's no longer inviting Muhammad and his wife, because Muhammad's got his own children, he's got his grandchildren. Now, if you're going to invite Muhammad's whole family, instead of becoming 2 people, it's 22 people, right? And then you multiply that by all the different cousins, it's too much. So not everybody gets invited for functions. And then funerals also, sometimes people find it difficult to make it for funerals. You know, it's far off, it's expensive. I met somebody from the country town, he said, I came for 2 weddings this month and now there's a janaza. Right? It's 3 tanks of petrol and all the toll gates in between. It's knocked my budget out. So having these family reunions is good. For one is you get to meet, but it also you get to introduce your children. But you can't only wait for reunions. From time to time, we need to insist. Look, children want to be with children their own age, and that's understandable. But we must insist we're taking you with. Children don't like kala kala, right? They say, no, you go and do kala kala. We go Durban for holiday. Mommy and daddy must do kala kala. Leave us by the beach. But you must show them who the family are, right? Not the extended family. You must introduce them. I feel we must all have our family trees. We must have a family tree. Put a big frame in your lounge and have the family tree there and show your children, let them know who's who. So you've got the children, then you've got the parents. Now, that's an independent discussion on its own about the rights of parents. But let me say this. The hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that person, may that person be disgraced, who finds his parents in old age and does not earn Jannah. The Prophet ﷺ did not say that you find your parents in old age and you don't serve them. No. You must look after them to such an extent that you make them your ticket to Jannah. That is how you need to look after your parents in the old age. And after they pass on, it is part of goodness to be good to those people who are friends with your parents. To go and visit the friends of your parents is an act of virtue. Now, many of us, alhamdulillah, as I said today, we're not addressing those people who are on the extremes. We're not talking about those who have gone and left their parents in old age homes and totally deserted them. Some of them, because of circumstances, you leave them for a while, but you're there, you visit them in the day, whatever. We're talking about people who have their parents in their home. So you're making accommodation for your parents, you're providing the roof for them, you're providing the money for them, you're paying the medical aid, you're paying all the bills, but you're not taking time to talk to them. They also want to feel acknowledged. You think what they know about, modern day society. They don't even know how to make a phone call, let alone read a WhatsApp. What do they know about business? My father ran a corner shop, I'm the CEO of a company. But they want to feel important. They want to feel relevant. They want to be spoken to. They want you to connect with them. And the more you don't show any regard to them, your children won't show regard to them. And you find so many parents whose children are looking after them financially, right? Giving them accommodation, but don't take the time to talk to them, to visit them, to speak to them on their level, to make them feel acknowledged, to make them feel appreciated.
You brought up a very important point about the respect of grandchildren for their grandparents. And many times you see, alhamdulillah, not so much in the Muslim community, but if you see with other races, in other religions, unfortunately, and maybe sometimes also in the Muslim community, the respect for grandparents is very limited now. Most of the time, the grandparents are probably in an old age home or sitting somewhere else, and you don't know your grandparents. And I think the best love that any child can get is from the grandparents, more than from their parents also. Still today, as old as I am, I still miss your grandparents because that love that they gave you is totally different to the love your parents gave you.
Yes, and unfortunately in society today, grandparents are seen by their grandchildren as a nuisance. Right, it is old budgie here, now we must listen to his stories. Azan time, off it, when you're reading your namaz. But you are right that parents don't get to spoil their children so much, because when you have your children, you're very busy at that time of your life. You got things to do, you got bills to pay. But the grandparents are a bit more relaxed. So they compensate for what they couldn't do with their children by doing it with their grandchildren. And in many homes also, even in my home, right, my granny stays with me. And my children know, Abba don't give us spending. Abba say, no, you grounded, you get something that side, right? You get on the stillikis. So it's important that we mustn't be guilty of emotional neglect. The majority of Muslims, alhamdulillah, still financially they take care, right? They won't leave their parents on the streets. They won't leave their parents unattended medically. But emotional, the emotional needs. And so we talk about kids, we talk about parents in terms of the family structure. The same thing with spouses. One is that marriage that's on the rocks where there's verbal abuse and emotional abuse and physical abuse. There it goes without saying, right? In terms of what is wrong and what needs to be fixed. But there are many marriages where the spouses are neglecting each other. They're not friends. There's no spark. There's no romance. Each one is expecting the other to do. But each spouse is not saying, okay, let me try and be the better person. Let me see what my spouse requires and treat them the best that I can. And all of this is part of maintaining family ties. When it comes to your siblings, unfortunately today with siblings, from a young age, there's so much of sibling rivalry. And it carries on. One sister is vying with the other sister, and then when she gets married, her children must also be center of attraction. Her husband must be center of attraction. Her husband and her children must overshadow her sister's husband and children. And parents sometimes get caught up in this when they show too much of favoritism towards one child over the other. And it becomes a competition between siblings. And parents get caught in the crossfire. Grandchildren become caught in the crossfire. Sometimes men act like children. So your wife told my wife something, and now the two brothers are rolling sleeves up against each other. Family business, it's become a very sore point. There's so much of barakah in a family business. But when the brothers are working, fine. Once the nephews come in and once the grandchildren come in, now your son is lazy, my son is doing more. So there isn't that maturity. And it puts strain on the family structure. We don't do things by the book sometimes. We don't clearly define. right? Okay, you get a salary from the business and that's it, right? No, everybody takes from the business. So the one is taking a Corolla, another one is taking a Mercedes. Then the one who got a Corolla feels bad that one son took a Mercedes. That one son went for Hajj with money from the business, and my son hasn't gone. So we need to take precaution. I mean, because prevention is better than cure. But we also need to understand these are some of the issues, the sibling, and then there's the broader family. WhatsApp groups are a good thing, alhamdulillah. It's allowed for us to connect with people that we couldn't connect with before. That's the minimum you can do. Send a WhatsApp message every now and then. How are you? Have a family chat group, interact, have a reunion every now and then. But there's no substitute for physical meeting. We need to make the time. We need to make the time. We need to open our doors to visitors, and we need to go and visit people. We need to take our children along. We need to build those family ties. It'll bring a lot of fulfillment into your own life. It'll bring a lot of barakah into your life. And obviously it goes without saying there'll be great reward in it.
Moulana, we have to take another break now, but I think after the break we can speak about some practical examples on how to maintain and build family ties. We're going to take a short break now. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to the show. Before the break, we were discussing the family unit and how to maintain family relations in this family unit. In this segment of the show, we'd like to discuss the reasons and the importance also. We did discuss some of the importance, but the reasons for maintaining family ties, and also how can we practically implement things to make sure that family ties are maintained at all times. Moulana, like I was just thinking also, previously, my father-in-law always tells me the story, when they used to come from the farm towns to Joburg, they used to stop in all the towns on the way just to make sure that they visit all their family friends, not even family, but family friends, their father's friends. Today, when we're going from Joburg to Durban, we try to take the quickest road. We go onto GPS to make sure there's no traffic, no stops on the way. How have we lost so much in the years that have gone by?
You know, if we look at the reasons as to why we're not maintaining family ties in the way that we should, I think first and foremost would be the issue of time. Now, I think to some extent we could say there's a lack of time. I mean, I'm not preaching really. I myself am grappling with the same thing. When I meet family, they say, "Hey, Moulana, you don't come visit." The other day I went for a funeral in Middelburg. People were fighting with me. When last we saw you then? And I said, I know I'm big in size, but how much are you going to split? How many parts are you going to split me? There's so much room to cover because the families have gone big. So time is a challenge, but we have to make time. And I always say something. It's more important to invest in your family than it is to invest for your family. Sometimes we think, well, I'm working hard so I can look after my parents. I'm working hard so I can look after my children. I'm investing for them. Right? I'm investing for my children's education. I'm saving for my parents' retirement. But it's more important to invest in them. Yes, of course, there's to be a balance, but they will appreciate the time that you gave them more than the money that you gave them or the opportunities that you gave them. And that's, I think, where we lose a sense of priority. It's more important to invest in your family than it is to invest for your family. Another big issue is ego. Many times family relations are strained. Look, when you're dealing with human beings, I was speaking about this in my Jummah talk as well this afternoon. I said, we are interactive beings by nature. And humans by nature, the Quran says, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا, man has been created weak. خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ هَلُوعًا, man has been created hasty. So you're not living with angels. Your wife is not an angel. Your parents are not angels. Your parents are your parents. You respect them because they're your parents, they're seniors. But they're not angels. They're not going to be perfect. They're going to get it wrong. At times they are going to hurt you. It doesn't mean that because they are your parents, they can't do anything wrong. They can't do anything hurtful. No. It doesn't give you the right to be disrespectful to them, nor does it give you a right not to fulfill their rights because they may have hurt you in some way. But the reality is your parents will get it wrong. They are humans, your brothers, your sisters, your colleagues, your neighbors. So if you are going to be disgruntled with everybody, if you're going to allow your ego to prevail all the time, you will live a miserable life. You won't be happy with your spouse, your children will be falling short, your parents will be falling short. Nobody but you is perfect. And that's why we need to get out of this ego. Sure, you're human, you feel hurt for a while, but you need to get over it. You can't all the time be feeling wronged, feeling unappreciated, carrying baggage for decades that this happened and that happened. The third aspect is also pettiness. Many times family relations are strained. Alims will tell you, family seniors will tell you, counselors will tell you, when you sit down and you say, what was the issue? And then you hear what the issue was. It's petty. Your daughter didn't come wash meat when my son's walima was taking place. Nowadays, they buy washed meat. And I'm all for it, Mohammed, I tell you. You know, when my youngest brother had a walima, and sometimes these traditions complicate things. So the tradition is, if it's on a Sunday afternoon, it must be biryani, it must be this. I put my foot down as the eldest in the family, and I said, listen, for this walima, we will have a braai, and it will be totally outsourced. Nobody must do nothing. Nobody's daughters must work, nobody's sons must work, nobody must set tables, nobody must bring anything. You just come. And it wasn't that much more expensive. My nanny and daddy were pulling their noses a little bit, how's this? Walima on a Sunday afternoon, you have a braai, you don't have it. But all the young generation, they actually appreciate it, because sometimes in wedding season, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, you're eating biryani. But the point behind this was, it's so tragic in weddings. It's good. In the old days, everybody used to look forward to helping. It was part of that family spirit. So 3-4 days before you come and you wash the meat and you start getting the achar ready and you start getting the papa ready and this and that, and it all culminates in the function, and it was all part of the spirit. But today, unfortunately, because the second generation and third generation has came in, it's about whose daughter is lazy sitting on the cell phone the whole day, who came only 1 day before and who came 3 days before, and then people are sitting with sour lemon faces on the wedding day, which is supposed to be a day of joy. Now brothers are not talking to each other because their wives had it out. So we need to rise beyond that pettiness. Then there's also the aspect that I spoke of earlier on jealousy and rivalry, especially among siblings, amongst cousins. Oh, he's doing better in business. How come? Then we cast aspersions. We make insinuations. We need to rise above these things. Even if it's true, even if somebody wronged you, even if someone was petty with you, look at the bigger picture for the pleasure of Allah. My whole Jummah talk was today that it is sunnah to forgive for the pleasure of Allah. If Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam could forgive the Meccans for what they did, if Yusuf Alayhi Salam could forgive his own brothers, no one was wronged the way he was wronged. They snatched him from the lap of his father, and his father was a Nabi, it's not an ordinary father. They snatched him from the house of Nubuwah, bottom of the well, sold as a slave, accused of adultery, spent time in jail, and now he's on the throne of Egypt, and they come to him in need, and he forgives them, and he makes dua to Allah to forgive them, and he makes an excuse for them that shaitan came between us. That is the spirit. Why? Look at the bigger picture. Family is more important than all of these petty issues. But another reason also why they strain on family relations is that senior-junior paradigm. Where juniors don't show respect for seniors, and that's wrong. They don't acknowledge seniors, that's wrong. They think they know it all because they're the current hip generation. But then you also have seniors who are very bullish. Because you're a lighty, you must do what I say. Because you're my nephew, or because you're my son, or you must my grandson. Today's generation is not like that. And even Sahaba were not like that. Umar radiallahu anhu was so much more senior, but he allowed Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu to express his opinion. When Dawud alayhi salam made a ruling, and Sulaimaan alayhi salam said, but dad, I think I have a better solution. He didn't say, who are you? And the scholars have written Sulaimaan alayhi salam was 13 years at the time. Right? And Dawud alayhi salam said, your option is indeed better. And he was happy that his son was thinking so smartly about the issue. So when you're a senior, give the juniors the space to have their opinions, to engage with you, to interact with you. Don't be bullish that because I'm elder, it's my way or the highway. Because I'm elder, you're a lighty, what do you know? So we need to make the time. One of the greatest tragedies of our time, Muhammad, is we treat the people we love the most the worst. We bring all the stress from outside and we take it out on our families. We take it out on our parents, we take it out on our children, we take it out on our spouses. We make time for everybody else there. The boss says, I need you to come in on a Sunday. You swear him in your heart, but you wear a smile on your face. And with your family, you love them in your heart, but you're wearing a frown on your face. And that's the great tragedy of today. Our homes have become like hotels. We're living under the same roof, we're eating the same food, but we're totally emotionally distanced and disconnected from one another. You have to strive. You can't be married to the job. When they did a survey that the people in their 50s, their greatest regret was they spent too much of time at work and too little time with the family. I understand there are bills to pay. I understand there's traffic to negotiate, but you have to find the balance. You have to strive and look for that balance somehow, because even if you're doing dini work, even if you're doing religious work, after 30 or 40 years, somebody will come with more energy, a better voice, and they'll usher you into retirement with a nice one farewell dinner. And then you'll feel disillusioned. And then what will happen is, now you'll want to compensate. Many times we think, let me get this done and that done, then I will spend time with my wife. But by the time you get there, the wife is then diagnosed with cancer and it's too late. Or when you get there, the children have grown up. Now they're in their own rat race. So you compensate for it now by spending more time with your grandchildren, but you've missed that generation. So don't get married to the job. Don't neglect your family because of financial commitments, because of your career. It just doesn't make sense. Your reservoir of happiness will never be material things. Your reservoir of happiness will always be your family. That is the system of Allah.
It's very important you mentioned it, and I think in the last segment we have to go to a break now. We can speak about memories because we remember that trip to Durban. We probably didn't stay in a five-star hotel. We stayed at your auntie's house or your uncle's house in Durban and used to have to trek to the beach every day. But those were the memories. Now I think we've got things very easy also, and it also has spoiled us and it made us forget who our families are.
That's for sure. And I mean, when you think back to your childhood, what is it about besides family? There's a few items that you'll remember. Oh, I had a yo-yo, I had a BMX, I had this, I had that. But the majority of what we were fussing over and what we were throwing tantrums for, we've forgotten about. In the end, it's those memories that we will cherish. In the end, it's those lessons and values that we learn from our grandparents. And that's why I say always, a young boy and girl get married, and then the marriage doesn't work out. And many times it's not because the boy is bad or the girl is bad. They just don't know how to live life. Why? Because they did not observe their seniors living life. The girl didn't see how her mother runs the kitchen, at the same time takes care of her own job, takes care of her husband, takes care of her children simultaneously. She never spent time with her mother. She never spent time with the grandmother. The boy didn't see how his father handled the job pressure, the house pressure, did the gardening, took care of the car, did the masjid work, everything together. So they're good people. But when they come into that family dynamic now, they don't know how to handle it because they haven't sat at the feet of their seniors to learn. So sometimes the children may find it very boring, but we need to impose it upon them so that they can learn from the seniors. They can develop those memories, as you say, but they can also take transfer of that experience of life. They can graduate from the university of life. Today it's all about graduating from WITS or from UJ. But let your children graduate from the university of the family to learn about life.
It's really important and very interesting points you've made. We're going to take a short break now and we'll conclude after that. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to the show where we've been having a really interesting discussion regarding maintaining of family ties. We've discussed the importance, the reasons why we're not maintaining family ties. We've discussed the family unit. In this segment we're going to conclude. We don't have much time left, but I just want to ask Moulana, the role of the cell phone, how has it affected our lives in such a big way?
On the one hand, it's a great tool, right? It grants you access. You can phone people from wherever you are. Before you had to first get to a landline, and those people had to be near a landline. It's easier to reach people. Also, at WhatsApp groups, etc., it's easier to keep in touch. But I think it's made us much more distracted. Where husband and wife are sitting together on the same bed, 30 centimeters apart, but no sparks are flying. If the husband wants to make the wife laugh, he must send her a WhatsApp. Then she'll read it and she'll laugh. And then then when she laughs, he laughs. But that has become the sad reality. Even when we're eating with one hand, we're texting with another. Tariq Jamil was here, he said, I cannot understand what kind of humans have we become. We take the cell phone with us to the bathroom. Even for those few moments, when you're answering the call of nature, you don't want to give up it's almost like it's become an extension of us. It's that when somebody takes it away, you feel like there's something missing here. It's made life very convenient. I mean, you don't have to go into the office now just to print an email or just to respond to an urgent email. But it also has had its setbacks because now work follows you wherever you are. So you have to be disciplined. You have to say, well, I got to cut off somewhere, right? With family time, everybody must leave their mobiles in the room. If there's anything urgent, they'll phone on the household. Or we'll hear all mobiles ring simultaneously. We know that there's some emergency or somebody has passed away. On the table, no mobiles. Even if it's half an hour a day, everybody sits in the living room, nothing. When you're at functions, it's highly, and I mean, we're all guilty of this because we're so busy and all of that. It's highly improper that you're all the time on your phone. And then people want to interact with you. They want to connect with you. They want to talk with you. But, in the end, we need to say, okay, how do we fix our approach? It's not only about lamenting what's wrong. We've spoken about that. How do we fix it? I think always it's about balancing rights and responsibilities. If you only want your family members to fulfill your rights, but you're not more focused on fulfilling your responsibilities towards them, then you're fighting a losing battle. Because Allah won't ask you what they're supposed to do for you. Allah will ask you what you were supposed to do for them. Secondly is we need to lower our expectations. We don't live in the best of times. We don't have the best of humans as family members. We are not the best of humans, right? Let's just be frank about it. So don't have high expectations that people are going to support you and be so loyal to you and do, because a lot of people who are aggrieved in the family structure, I thought my brother will help me, I thought my sister will stand by me. Look, you don't live in the best of times, right? So lower your expectations. Whatever you do, don't do it because you want something in return, because that's when you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Even with your own children. When you do, expecting that they will do for you later and they don't do for you, it becomes catastrophic. Do for the pleasure of Allah. Allah says, وَجَبَتْ مَحَبَّتِي. The greatest accomplishment for a believer, even better than Jannah and beyond Jannah, is to become the beloved of Allah. Allah says, I will make you my beloved if you love one another for my sake. So love your family members not because they deserve your love, but because Allah says you must love them. And if you love them for the pleasure of Allah, you will become the beloved of Allah. وَلِلْ مُتَوَاصِلِينَ فِيَّ. If you join family ties for the pleasure of Allah, you become the beloved of Allah. If you visit for the pleasure of Allah, if you spend on them for the pleasure of Allah, you become the beloved of Allah. So whatever you do for your family, have minimal expectations. Don't expect anything in return. Do for the pleasure of Allah. Also, in terms of how we must enhance our approach towards family relations, as I said, we have to adopt an attitude of forgiveness. Like Mu'tari Jamil was stressing in his bayans when he was here recently in his talks, that you know what, it's not only for the books and the pages of the books that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was a family man and how good. Be good with your family. Be good with your spouse. All these things are not for the outside world only, tolerance, forgiveness, leniency. It's more so for your own spouse. Sometimes we think, no, because they know me better and they love me, they're supposed to be better to me. But they're humans. So you need to be very forgiving. You need to walk away from an argument even if you are right. And Allah will give you a house in the middle of Jannah. And you walk away from an argument if you are wrong, and Allah will still give you a house on the outskirts of Jannah. Those words, silman qata'ak. Build ties with those who are breaking ties. Wa'fu amman dalamak. Forgive those who are doing wrong to you. Wa'ahsin ila man asaa ilayk. Do good to those who are bad to you. If there's anything for which we need to sacrifice our ego, our pride, and our own sense of entitlement and our own desire to avenge, it is for family. It's worth it. Really, it's worth it in the end of the day. Yes, of course, when you look at family, don't look at it only in terms of visiting or in terms of financial assistance. Charity to family, you get double reward. Reward for charity and reward for maintaining family ties. But it's not only about charity. It's about helping them. It's about making their difficulties your own difficulties. Being that rock of support, being that ear to listen, being that shoulder to lean on. Just sometimes being in their presence to make them feel that they're not alone in life. And also it's about spiritually assisting them. Allah says, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. Save yourself and save your family from the fire of Jahannam. If someone in my family is not reading Salah, it should be a problem for me. If someone in my family is away from Deen, it should be a problem for me. If there is friction in my family, the greatest act of virtue would be for me to reconcile, not to go and put fuel on the fire, to hear the story here and take it there and take the story from here and go there. But all said and done, we also need to be very moderate. Sometimes we go from one extreme to the other. We overdo it in family relations, then when things go wrong, we underdo it. You know, in Arabic they say, زُرْ غِبًّا تَزْدَدْ حُبًّا. Visit now and then, it will increase love. So sometimes we don't visit, or we're visiting all the time. We're making itikaf in somebody else's house. There must be moderation. Don't be on either one of the extremes. As they say in Arabic, أَحْبِبْ حَبِيبَكَ هُونَمَّا عَسَىٰ إِن يَكُونَ بَغِيدَكَ يَوْمًا. The people that you love them in moderation. One day they may become your enemy. But the people that you hate them in moderation also. One day they may become your friends. So don't divulge all your secrets. Don't open up every aspect of your life. Maintain the relation. Maintain the relation. Do more than what they're doing for you, but keep a balance. Because otherwise, once you start imbalancing things, then it goes to the other extreme. And as much as we run down technology, I think use technology. Don't make that the primary avenue through which you maintain relations with your family, but use technology excessively. Once a week, take out 1 hour of your time and phone around. The bare minimum is a WhatsApp. One better than that is a phone call, right? And one better than that is actually, going and meeting them. So, Mohammed, just to wrap it all up, I mean, there's so much more we can say. We live in a world of turmoil. Everything is so topsy-turvy. Emotions are fluctuating so quickly nowadays. More so now than ever before, we need our families. It's worthwhile to forgive. It's worthwhile to tolerate. It's worthwhile to overlook. It's worthwhile to invest in your family. It's your best investment. It will bring you a lot of satisfaction in this world, a lot of benefit. It will secure you a lot of reward. And most importantly, it's the right thing to do. It's what Allah wants us to do. So, as I said right in the beginning, and I'll conclude with it again now, that each one of us should not be judging the next person based on what was said. We all need to look at ourselves and see how we can do better. Right? It's so important, family ties. Like money is important to us. We're never satisfied with what we are doing. We want to do more. We want more. So family ties is such, we must always be saying, how can I do more? And if there's one point that I want all our viewers to remember today, because the majority are doing, is that emotional neglect. Don't emotionally neglect your spouse or your children or your parents or your grandparents or anybody in that family. May Allah grant us all the understanding.
I mean, Jazakallah so much. I think it's really important, and we need to make dua to Allah Ta'ala that this family ties will always be maintained. And as you mentioned, we have to do it. It's not an option for us in our lives. We have to do it. It was really interesting being with Moulana, discussing this, and may Allah Ta'ala make it easy for us all to maintain these ties. I'd like to conclude with this. Family is when life begins and love never ends. Keep that in mind, and until we meet again, it was really nice being in your company and being in studio again. From all of us in the team, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
جميل المساعي وامنح الناس حبك بيض الله قلبك بيض الله قلبك جميل المساعي وامنح الناس حبك بيض الله قلبك بيض الله قلبك كن سموحا لخصمك تلقى خصمك